Hey there, welcome back. So in the last video, this is where we left. So we almost completed the home page. So if you see the output, okay, so this is what we had completed, but there was one incomplete thing. So you see there the header and the footer, we wanted to not occupy the whole width of the screen. Let's make the whole page width as something like till this like we have this photos. Okay, so let's do styling for this main div. Okay, then we can restrict the width of header and footer as well. So going to our code base, so this is where so if you see here, so for this let's do the styling. That is let's make this as a flex, and the max width I want it to be 6xl, and margin x as auto, so that it line the center, and make this as a flex column, and items as a center, and justify as center. Padding y direction let's give us 2, and the minimum height of the screen. Okay, so now the width of them should be reduced. So now if you see, yeah, the width and the width of the both header and footer are fine to what we needed. So now let's go on and create the revive.ts file and tsx file, and start configuring that. Okay, so heading back to code base, so in this pages section I'm going to create a new file called revive.tsx. okay, so this is what the page where all the main functionality of this application will be taking place. So let's write the component. So let's name that as what yeah, let's name this as home, and this would be of type next page. Okay, and this is where we will be rendering whatever is associated to this page. Okay, so first let's focus on rendering the UI part, and later we'll focus on functionality part. Okay, so here the main div. Okay, so the styling would remain same like we did for the previous page. So max width will restrict to the 6xl, and mx auto, and flex column, and items as a center, and justify center, padding y direction 2, and minimum height of the screen. Okay, so this is the common style. Okay, after this we'll have the head. Okay, so in this the title that what we will give is revive images. Okay, yep, and here the icon that we wanted to have is this is the icon we will be having. Okay, so that is slash favicon dot. Okay, yeah, so this is the head part, and the header remains same, so we'll make use of the component which we have built. So here we'll pass in this parameter, that is so we will use the use session hook, then based on that variable here we will make use of that. So if this, once we sign in, this attribute will be present, so that if that attribute value is not null, we will pass that, or else we'll pass the undefined. Okay, fine, and so after this the main section. So main section we will have some content. So let's create the main thing, and the styling for this, so let's give a flex and flex 1, and a width occupy as much as possible, and a flex column direction, and items as a center, and justify also a center part, text center padding x direction, give it as a 4, margin top 4. If it's a small screen, margin bottom is 0, or else margin bottom 8. So which is same as the previous one which we have configured. Okay, and header, so again the styling for this, margin x above the direction auto, and maximum width make this as a 4xl, and text size 4 times xl, and font bold, tracking normal, so text slate give it as 900, and if it's a small screen give the text a little bit larger size, text xl, and give margin bottom as 5. Okay, so the header text here what we will be giving is a restore. So let's revive any face image. Okay, so for now let's remove this. Okay, so once we configure the session part, we'll configure that. So then export this page. So we had an index page, so let's, I think we have not had it. Okay, so on clicking this we will redirect to the revive page. Okay, so now we'll just check now if the things are configured. So once I click on this, yep, this is the header component that we are reusing. So now this is the place where we have to put in the content for this page. So heading back to our code base, so to our revive page. After this so we will make a call to authentication and get the status. If the status is authenticated, we'll show some text. If not, we're going to show some text. Okay, so that we will configure now. So we will add the, so if you see here the dependencies which we have added, there is no next auth. So first we'll install that and try to configure the authentication part using the Google Auth client credentials. Okay, so the dependencies needed for that is first let's install the next auth. So okay, so this is one, we are going to use the next auth JS, which is providing the lot of providers for us out of the box. Okay, and after that as I said, we have to keep track of the users. Okay, for that we are going to use the Prisma. So let me install the Prisma client. Okay, so this is one ORM where we will write the users data into our database. Okay, okay, so after this we need a Prisma adapter. Okay, so that also will install. So the Prisma adapter is this yep, so this is what is needed to talk to our database. Okay, so this is the thing I'm going to install. Okay, so let me install that. So this one, npm install next auth Prisma adapter, and here I will install a specific version because I had a problem with the Canary version. Okay, and okay, first let's install this. Yeah, and after this let's install Prisma in the types. Okay, yeah. So dev dependency. Okay, fine. So after this let's create a Prisma client and also create the models needed for that. Okay, so first what we will do is we'll follow this documentation I have shown. Okay, so this is the thing that we will be doing first. So we will configure API auth section. Okay, so inside this API folder, let's create a new folder called auth, and inside this we will create a one more dynamic folder called nextauth.ts. okay, so this is going to handle all our login, sign in, sign out pages. Okay, yep. So in this file we are going to sorry, it has to be file, not a folder. So let's delete this. So I'm going to create the file here called nextauth.ts. okay, fine. So this is where we're going to configure the Prisma client and also configure the Google provider. Okay, so before even that we'll have to create a Prisma DB instance. Okay, for that I'm going to create a new folder called libraries, and I'm going to create an instance of that there. Okay, so let's create a new folder called library. Okay, and inside that let's name this as a prismadb.ts. okay, so first, so we're going to declare, this is standard way. So if you go to their documentation, this is how they recommend us to use this. So have the variable Prisma, and this would be of type Prisma client. So let's import this. So it has to be from Prisma client. Okay, fine, or else undefined. Okay, fine. So here const client equals to global this dot Prisma, or else new Prisma client. So we are going to make one global variable Prisma. So if there is no value inside that Prisma variable, we'll initialize the new Prisma client. If not, we're going to take that. Okay, so here again, if process dot env node environment is not equals to production, so we're going to assign the above client, or else we're going to return the default client. Okay, yeah. So this is how we're going to get the Prisma client. So going to the next auth section now. So here we will define a function called auth options. So this would be of type next auth option. So let's import it from next auth. Import next auth options, sorry, options from next auth. Okay, yeah, and here the adapter we will be configuring the Prisma adapter which we have installed, so that also let's import it. Prisma adapter, I don't know why the autocomplete isn't working, so yep, then we're going to use that by passing in the Prisma from the file which we have just created. So from this one, yep. So after this, the providers, so here we are going to configure the Google provider. So okay, let's import this too. So it is Google. Okay, so let's use that Google provider, and for this we have to pass in the client ID. Okay, so here I will configure the environment variables named a Google client ID and a Google client secret respectively, and I'll tell you how to get that. Okay, later on, once you get that, please configure inside the .env file. Okay, then the value will be supplied here. Okay, so let's name this as a Google client ID, or else the empty string, and a client secret. So client secret again will store in our environment file, so that is Google client secret or empty string. Okay, so this is how we're going to configure the Google provider, and finally we will export next auth by passing in the above auth options. Okay, so yeah, this is how we configure the next auth. Okay, fine. So now let's generate our Prisma. Okay, so what we'll do, so we'll follow this doc. Okay, so where, yeah, so let's create a schema in Prisma slash schema.prisma. Okay, by following the same here. So I'll create a new folder here, so called Prisma, and inside this I'm going to create a new file called schema.prisma. Okay, so just we're going to take whatever is needed for us from there. So first let's go to that location. So this and this would be same. So let's first take all of it, and then I'm going to remove, just keeping whatever we need. Okay, so here, so first generated client, okay, that's fine, and the provider we're going to use the PostgreSQL. So let's just change it to PostgreSQL, and also here the environment variable I'll be configuring in environment.env file. So that name is database URL. So let's remove this double quotes. Okay, yeah, so this is the URL. So okay, fine. After this, in account we are going to keep only the things which are needed for us. So user ID, okay, ID, fine, user ID, and type. Okay, so let's just keep this as type, and that would be our string, and then provider let's make this as a provider, which is of type string, provider account ID, and then refresh token. Let's keep this variable separated by space, okay, and the same access token, okay, and fine. So here, instead of access token expires, we will just name this as expired set and give that as a int, okay. Expired set and make this as of type int. After that, token type, so even let's store the token type, so this would be of type string. Then the scope of this, it will be of type string, and the ID token. So you just figure out how to create a models for a respective provider and all, and then configure it, okay. So this would be of type db dot text, okay, and then the session state, so this would be of type string, okay, fine. So here the created at and updated at we don't want, so let's take it off. And then user relation fields would be references ID, and on delete we're going to cascade it, so let's just apply that to, okay, yeah. And the unique would be a provider and the provider account ID, okay. So this is would be our account model. Now coming down to the session thing, so we'll just keep ID and session token and expires, okay, fine. So here created and updated at, let's take it off. So ID, fine, session token, okay, and user ID, expires, and user, okay. And here also let's apply on delete, which is a cascade, okay, fine. So this is the session model. And then user will have the ID, name, email verified, image, and this will keep, just will remove the created at and updated at thing, and verification thing as well, we'll remove created at and updated at. ID also I don't think we need, because we have already identifier. So token and then expires, yep. So these are the models, okay. So let me get the environment variables, okay. So that is let's create a new file called .env, and in this I'm going to configure the variables required for this, and I'm going to tell you how to get that variables, okay. So I have kept notes part, okay. So let me take those variables. So for now I have configured what and all variables are required. So here later I'll tell you how to get this. So the database URL is the database name is revive images, okay. And Google client ID I have configured, and client secret, okay, fine. So first I'll tell you how to get the Google client ID and client secret. So if you go to your console.cloud.google.com, so this is where you will be redirected to whatever the project you have created. If not, just create a new project, and you have to go to the credentials part. So I'll just, so if you are here, so just go to the API and services, and inside the credentials you have to configure the OAuth consent screen first by just giving the name of your application and all that stuff, and then you just have to give the the authorized JavaScript origins, from which origin it will be coming from. So if you are deployed and URL is generated, you have a separate domain, just configure that domain here, and the authorized redirect URLs, just change this localhost 3000 HTTP to whatever the deployed URL or whatever the host you are running on, and then this remains constant. So this is the two things you have to configure, and once you configure these credentials, automatically that will generate for you the client ID and the client secret. Okay, you just don't share this with anyone. Okay, so this is how you get the client ID and client secret. Okay, so that I have configured both of them. Okay, so now, so if you see this documentation, this is how you're going to generate clients. So once you have this, just to generate the Prisma client. Okay, after this this is how we are going to configure the database. So let's run these two commands, that is npx prisma generate. Okay, fine. Now the client for us is generated, and then so now this tables, let's say this as initial. So now whatever the models we have created should be reflected. It has a tables in our revive images database. So if you go to our PostgreSQL and refresh our databases, you see here the revive images, and if you see the schemas part and the tables part, account, session, user verification, request. So these were the 4 tables that we had in a model section. So the database is created and tables are also created. Okay, so now heading back to our code base, so going to our revive.tsx. so this is where we will have to configure the variables. Okay, using the use session hook, and accordingly we will have to deal with that. Okay, so first, this is how I'm going to use the use session hook. So here, first let's take the data and rename this to a session, and the status from the use session hook. Okay, so let's import that. So let's import this from next auth / react. Okay, fine. So and make use of this and extract the data and also the status. So now we will try to render the UI based on that. Okay, so this is just after this, if status value is authenticated, then only we will be showcasing this. So which is and we are going to handle the rate limiting calls to our Redis vector database, right? So that also we will configure now. That is, we'll write an API called remaining something like remaining, and first configure that API. Okay, because we'll have to use this. So accordingly here, based on that, if that we are retrieving some data from that, and if we know there are some generations left, so we have to showcase how many number of generations left, and what is the next renewal time. Okay, so for that we have to create an API. So here inside this API folder, I'll be creating a new file called remaining.ts. Okay, so remaining.ts. so here we will add the logic required to get the request left for a particular user. Okay, so just a second. Okay, so here the standard. So let's write the handler function. So default function handler. So this would receive two input types, which is of API request and a response, next API response. Okay, fine. So here first I'm going to get this session. So by using the get server session, so by passing in the request and the response and the auth options from the next auth which we have just created. So if the user is not logged in, or if there is no user object inside this session, we are going to just say that login to upload. Okay, so we're going to return the response dot status as 500. Okay, and the message that we would be sending is login to upload if the user is not logged in. Okay, we have to make this as a synchronous function. Okay, fine. Next, now this is how we have to query the Redis database. So for that I would need the email. So let's store in a one variable called identifier, and let's take that email from session.user.email, and here window duration. So how long this window duration? So this would be 24 hours into 60 into 60 into, we are going to convert into, okay, and the bucket. Okay, these are the details we need to query the Redis database. So if you want more details, you can just refer to the Upstash Redis documentation. Okay, so math.flow date dot now by window duration. Okay, fine. So here we are going to get the used generations based on the user email. Okay, so this is where we are going to make a query to Redis database. Okay, so for that we need a Redis instance. So let's create a utils section, and in that let's create a new file Redis, and have that client and make use of that here. Okay, so let me create here a new folder. It's not in the pages. Okay, utils, and inside I'm going to define a new file called redis.ts. okay, so here, and for that we need upstash Redis. Okay, so let's install that. So I'm not going to details of the it respectively by referring to the documentation. So if you can refer, it would be helpful for you. Okay, fine. So here I'm going to create a one variable called Redis, and then here if the both environment variables, that is as I was talking about the upstash Redis rest URL and upstash Redis rest token, if neither of them is not null, then only we are going to initialize the Redis object, or else we are just going to return the undefined. Okay, so this I have configured this, and I'll show you how to get these values. Okay, so upstash Redis rest URL, and this the token as well. So that is upstash Redis rest token. Okay, so if these two are present, we are going to initialize an object of Redis. Okay, so let's just take it from, yeah, and for this the inputs that we'll be passing is the URL, which is the above variables upstash Redis rest URL. Okay, similarly the token process.env the rest token. Okay, yeah, so these are the two things we'll be passing. If neither of them is present, as I said, we'll be passing in the undefined, and finally we'll export that so that we can make use of this. Okay, so it is now ready. So heading back to our remaining.ts section, so let's make any call to that. So sorry, Redis. Okay, so only if this is present, okay, we are going to make a get request to this upstash. This is the ID. Okay, this is how we are setting. Okay, and pass in the identifier, that is an email, and the bucket name. Okay, so this is going to give us the how many times it has been used. I mean, this ID is of used. Okay, fine. Then based on that we are going to return remaining generations. Okay, so first let's name the variable as const remaining generations. So this would be 5 minus number of used generations. Okay, and also we have to pass in the hours and minutes for the next revival, right? So for that let's calculate it like this. So first let's get the current date. Okay, object, so let's get the date object. Okay, and reset date dot set hours to 19. Okay, and here the diff calculate difference by passing in reset date dot get time and the current date dot get time. Okay, fine. So from this we're going to get the hours and the minutes. So math dot floor diff by 1000 by 60 by 60. Okay, this is going to give us the hours, and for minutes math dot floor difference by 100 by 1000 by 60. So this is going to give us the minus hours into 60. So this is going to give us the minutes. Okay, so now while returning the response we are going to return these three variables. So return response dot status would be 200 since call was successful, and pass in this remaining generations hours and the minutes. Okay, so this is quite tricky, I understand, but if you refer the documentation, okay, so it will be clear. Okay, just the calculation of the time. Okay, fine. So this is the remaining it is going to give us the how many generations are left for the particular user. So if we go here, so let's to our revive.tsx thing. So let's get the data, and here I'm going to use the React hooks for data fetching, that is use swr library. So let's install swr. So npm install, this is very powerful, so you can use that. which makes us see our task easier for data fetching. Okay, so here after this, let's get the data by making call to the API which we have just created, and get the data and mutate by using use. Let's import this. Okay, so I forgot the quotes. Here we just have to pass in the endpoint, so that is /API/remaining, and here the fetcher. So here the fetcher would be nothing but the URL. Okay, so we'll have to pass in the URL for this, kind of a function which receives the URL as the input. Okay, and then returns the response. Okay, so let's define just above here, that is fetcher, and the input for this is the URL which is of type string, and make use of the fetch client. Okay, and pass in the URL and then get the response from that. So this would be passed to this. So fine, so this is how we'll be getting the data for us. Okay, yeah, now depending on that we are going to display the data. So here if the data is not null and if status is authenticated, we are going to showcase this. So here paragraph, give the text style as text slate 500, and here I'm going to give the text as you have some space, and inside the span I'm going to make this as a semi-bold. Here I'm going to show that remaining generation. So data dot remaining generations. Okay, okay, fine. After that this is how we're going to show the hours and minutes. So data dot remaining generations is greater than 1, we're going to append yes or else no. Okay, so if this is greater than 1, we're going to append yes or else just empty string. So we'll renew in let's give some space and then display the hours and minutes again in separate span. Okay, so let's take this out of the span. We don't want bold styling for this. Okay, so after this, and here the text would be left number of generations left for today. So let's say this would be left today, and your generation, as I said, if the left remaining generations is greater than 1, we'll append s here, or else the empty will renew in. And now we'll add one more span tag where we will wrap the hours and minutes. Okay, so give here this as a font semi-bold, and here data dot hours, and give this hours and data dot minutes. So let's give it as minutes. Okay, fine. So this is the text only if the status is authenticated and data is present. Okay, fine. If not, okay, if status is not authenticated and it's a loading, that's a lot of thing we'll have to handle in this. So let's continue building that. So before even building that, first I wanted to complete the services required for this application, that is calling that replicate API. So let's first complete the services and the components required, and then we'll come to this revive page and use all of them, so that we'll not have to face these errors. Okay, so let me go to the API folder and create a file called generate.ts. Okay, so here we'll try to configure the API call to get the generated image. Okay, so first let's extend the next API request and add our image URL into its body. So that is interface, let's name this as extended next API request extends next API request. Okay, and in this we are going to add a parameter image URL, okay, which is what we are supposed to pass. Okay, fine. So and then get the object of the rate limit as well, so that we will have to install a library from Upstash. Okay, that is npm install Upstash / rate limit. Okay, so from this we'll create a object of rate limit. Okay, yeah, so here let's name the name of that object as a rate limit. So if Redis is not null, then only we'll create the object of rate limit. Okay, so the things required to be passed is the Redis object, and then the limiter. So your limiter would be rate limit dot fixed window 5, and here we'll have to pass in the minutes. Okay, fine. Then analytics true. Yeah, so if there is no Redis instance, we'll just pass in the undefined. Okay, yeah, this is the object. Now let's write the handler function. Okay, export default async function handler. Okay, so this would be having two parameters, not next API request, which we have extended it, so will it will be of type extended next API request. Okay, and response your next API response. So here let's be exclusive of what kind of a response that we would be expecting. So let's define a type for that. So I'll name that as data, and make that as a string. So here we will mention that. Okay, so yeah, now first thing what we will do is we'll check if the user is logged in or not. So const session await get server session by passing in the request, response, and the auth options. Okay, yeah, so if pretty standard, if there is no session or if there is no session dot user, will just return saying that not logged in. Okay, So status that we will send back is 500, and JSON, the thing that we would be sending is string, which is login to upload. Okay, yeah. Fine. So yeah, after this we will rate limiting by user email. Okay, so we will check that if rate limit is there, we'll the pretty standard identifier, so that would be session dot user dot email. So here, fine. Yeah, so this is the identifier, and then the result, so which we have, so that is await rate limit dot limit by passing in the identifier, which should be not null, and then we are going to set the header for our next API response. So header that we would be setting is rate limit, okay, and pass in the result dot limit, okay, and one more header that would be setting is rate limit remaining. Okay, so rate limit remaining, and the thing which would be passing is result dot remaining. Okay, yep. So now we will calculate the remaining time until generations or reset. Okay, that is we'll calculate the difference by pretty standard what we have configured in our remaining. Okay, so calculate the difference between the date, okay, result dot reset dot get time minus the current time. Yeah, so this is going to give the difference, and using this we'll calculate the hours and minutes. So math dot floor difference by 1000 by 60 by 60. So this is going to give us the hours, and minutes we will be calculating floor value of difference by 1000 by 60 minus hours into 60. Okay, so this is the minutes. Now if the result dot success is present, then we are going to return that your generations will renew in hours and minutes. Okay, fine. So this is, and the status that would be sending is 429, and the message is, this is what will be passing, so that is your generations will renew in this hours, and this minutes. Okay, so just will give the additional information, like let's say my email, if you have any questions. Okay, so this is what will be sending if it is success. Fine, so that is to handle the rate limiting thing. Now first we will take the image URL from our request body. So would be request.body.image URL, and then let's make a call to our API endpoint. Okay, so and let's store that into a variable called start response. So we are going to make a call to that. So the endpoint is this, the pretty api.replicate.com /v1 /predictions. Okay, so here the method is post, and headers that would be passing is obviously the content type, which is application /JSON, and then the authorization. So here we'll have to get the token, so I'll show you how to get that. So and that I have stored in environment variables already. So that is process.env.replicate API key. Okay, so this is the address that we are supposed to pass, and the body. So body we will json.stringify, and here with all the things we are supposed to pass is the version. So version, this is how we are going to get. So this is the version number, so let's take it from here. So pass the version number, and then the input we have to pass it the image, which is the image URL, the variable, and then the version. So version is 1.4 and the scale is 2. Okay, so these are the body that we are supposed to pass for this endpoint. Okay, fine. So once we send that post request to that, let's capture the JSON of that. So that is JSON start response, and that is just store it here, and then get the endpoint URL. So that is going to return us the endpoint. So endpoint URL, so JSON start response dot urls dot get. Okay, fine. So now what we'll do, we kind of do a polling, API polling for result. So until we get the restored image, we'll be polling for the result. Okay, so first let's create one variable which will store our restored image. Okay, so let's name this as yeah, let's name this as revived image. Okay, yep, and this would be of type string or null. So initially we'll make it this as a null. Okay, yeah, so this is the polling that we will be doing. So until the revived image variable is not null, we will be polling for result. So let define one more variable called final response, and then make a call to our endpoint URL. Okay, and this would be method of type get, and the headers would be the content type and authorizations. So content type application /JSON, and the authorization would be a token plus our environment variable, that is process.env.replicate API key. Yeah, so this is the headers. So once this is done, we will get the JSON final response. So let's store in a variable called JSON final response and await this final response dot JSON. And if the JSON final response date status, okay, we'll check for the status. If this is equals to succeeded, then we are going to assign value into our revived image variable, that is JSON final response dot output. Okay, yeah. Else if JSON final response status is failed, if it is equals to failed, we are going to break out of this while loop. Okay, else we're going to await new promise by passing in the resolve object and set timeout to 1 second. Okay, yeah. And here we are facing an issue with the session, so where yeah, it has to be or. Okay, we don't have to check for the both things, so now the error is gone. Fine. So after this, finally, once we come out of the while loop, this is the response that we would be sending. So that is status as 200, and the message that we would be sending is our revived image if it is present. So or else we will send failed to revive image. Okay, yeah. So yeah, pretty much this is the API call to get our revived image. Okay, fine. So now we have this API. So let's say go back to our revive.tsx. So here we will first define the variable, okay, I mean the local variables that are needed to keep track of. So first I would need variable to keep track of our original image. So I am going to name this as original image, and the callback function set original image. Okay, and we're going to use the useState hook, and this would be of type string or null. So initially we'll set it to null. Okay, this is to store our original image, and one more variable to store our revived image. Okay, so again we'll define the same, that is revived image, set revived image, and this again will make use of useState hook, and this would be of type string or null. So initially we will make it as a null. Okay, fine. Now variable to keep track of if it's loading or not while we are making an API call, so that also we need a variable. So let's name the variable name as a loading, and the callback function as set loading, and this would be of type of boolean. So boolean or okay, so initially we'll make this as a false. Okay, fine. Then after this as I showcased in the previous video, that we'll have a side-by-side view as well as the only one single comparison thing. So to know that the user has selected for side-by-side view or compare, for that we need one variable. So let's name that variable as side by side, and set side by side, and this would be of type boolean. So this would be of type boolean. Initially I'll make this as a false. Okay, fine. And also if there are any while we are making calls to the API, so let's keep track of that errors as well. So this would be of type string. Okay, So use state, so this can be a string or a null. So initially no errors, assuming no errors, so we'll make this as a null. Fine. After this, the name of the image that user is uploading, so that also we need to keep track of, because when the user is trying to download it, we'll have to append a new keyword to that and let the user download. Okay, so for that, one variable to keep track of the image name. Okay, so image name, set image name. Okay, and this would be of type string or null. Okay, so initially no image name. Okay, fine. So yeah, these are the variables for now. If needed, we'll add it here. Okay, so fine. Now after this, these are the variables needed for now. So after this, what we will do here is we'll have to have the option to upload the image, right? So for that, I'm going to use a library. Okay, so that we're going to make use of the React uploader. So I'm going to install that. So if you see now, we have not installed a React uploader, so let me install that. So React uploader, and also uploader a library. Okay, so yep. So now going back to our revive.tsx, so first we will configure the uploader object, okay, by passing in our the API key. Okay, fine. So here I will create an uploader. This I spoke to you about that uploader file storage, right? So that is for this. So uploader, and this I'm going to create an uploader object. Okay, and here the things we are supposed to pass is the API key. So this depends again if this variable, that is next public upload API key is not null, then I'm going to assign that value. So that is process.env.next public upload API key. Okay, or else we'll just mention this as a free. Okay, fine. So this is how we're going to create an uploader object. Okay, fine. So once we have that, we'll have to define the, so since I installed a React uploader, so for that we'll have to pass in the options like to upload drop zone component. So let's first configure that options here. Just beneath this, I'm going to create one object called variable called options. Okay, in this first the max file count, so how many that user can upload at a time is 1, and the MIME types. Okay, and the images that will be supporting for uploading is JPEG, okay, and PNG, and then JPG. Okay, so these are the image MIME types that would be supporting, and then the editor. So this if you just refer to the React-uploader documentation, you will know what are the options to pass. Okay, I'm not going to explain all those details. You just head to the npm React-uploader documentation, and you will be able to figure this out. Okay, and editor this images, so and crop, I don't want to crop. Okay, fine. Then the styles, so styles, colors, primary, give it as a black. Okay, fine. Then on validate, callback function. So here the type this expects is the file input, and returns is the promise. It can be of undefined or a string. Okay, so here what we will be checking is if the data dot remaining generations is 0, we will just say that no more generations left for the day. Okay, so this is what we'll be checking, and then we'll return the undefined if this is not true. Okay, so this is what we'll be doing in on validate. Now let's create a function called upload drop zone and make use of that upload drop zone component and pass in the options which we have configured, and also the uploader object and all. Okay, so yep, so just after this I'm going to define a function called upload drop zone. Okay, and here so yeah, so I'm going to import the upload drop zone. Okay, so let's import from React uploader. Okay, so this is the thing. So for this component, the params that we should be passing is the uploader. So this is the uploader that we have created. Okay, sorry, it has to be a small z. Okay, fine. Yeah, then after this the options which we have just created, and then on update callback function, so we will have the file as the input param, and then here if file dot length is not equals to 0, then we are going to set the image name. So image name will be in the first array in the original file dot original file name. Okay, and then I'm going to set original image to file dot file URL dot replace raw with thumbnail. Okay, so this is the original image, and then we will configure a function where the generate image function will be called. So let's configure that function where the API which we have just configured will be triggered. So just on top of this, I'm going to create one function. Okay, let's name that as this as generate image. Okay, and pass in the file URL which would be of type string. Okay, so here first thing that we will make some timeout here. So here the timeout we will set it to 500 milliseconds. Then after this we will set loading variable to true. Okay, and then make a call to our endpoint. So here using the fetch, and the endpoint is /API/generate. Okay, and the this is of method post, and headers we just have to pass in the content type. So content type is application slash JSON. Okay, and the body will just stringify the image URL. Okay, so here the image URL, and this would be the input of this function, that is file URL. Okay, fine. So once we receive the response from this, we are going to store, let's create one variable, that is new image, and store that inside using the response.json. Okay, if response.status is not equals to 200, that means something went wrong. So we are going to set error to whatever we received inside the new image variable. Okay, else I'm going to set revived image to the new image. Okay, and after this I'm going to set loading to false. Okay, yeah, so this is, I think, it for the calling of our endpoint which we have just created. So that will make use and also here we have used here mutate, so let's call that so that the remaining generations left for today would be updated. So just after this I'm going to call this mutate as well using this use swr hook. Okay, yeah, so now let's, this generate image should be used here after setting the original image. So that is, generate image and pass in the URL. So this would be nothing but file URL dot replace raw with, yep. So this is the upload drop zone function, and we're using the upload drop zone component from the react-uploader library, and then pass in the other params like width and height. So width I'll restrict it to the 670 pixel, and then height I will restrict it to the 250 pixel. Okay, yeah, so this is the upload drop zone function. So now I think, yeah, we are I think we are set, and we have some components to be built. I know we are writing a lot of code but we are not seeing any output, but yeah, because these are not showcaseable, these are like configuration of APIs and ready, making the components ready required to be showcased, then we can see. Okay, so just a few more components. So, and as I told, we need a toggle just to let the user select the side by side to view, or else just a single comparison. So for that we will have to create one component which will let the user select the option for toggling. So let's create one component inside our components folder. So here, so let's create a file called toggle.tsx, and then here I'm going to use the headless UI React. That is it is having a lot of reusable components which are regularly used in all the applications. You just refer to that thing. Okay, so I'm going to install that as well. That is npm install headless UI slash React. Okay, fine. So it is installed. So first, so let's export the default function and name this as toggle, and this will receive the side by side as the input, and also the callback function set side by side, and props for this, and let's define the type of this. So this can be of type, let's define this as interface. So export interface, and name this as toggle props, and let's extend this from HTML attribute. Okay, and this HTML development. Yep. So here set side by side, side by side first. So side by side would be of type boolean. So let's define that boolean. Okay, and then set side by side would be a callback function which receives the side by side of type boolean, and returns the void. Okay, yep. So this we are going to make use of that here. So this would be of type toggle props. Okay, yeah, and now we are going to use the switch from headless UI. Okay, yeah, and the group switch dot group as make it act as a div, and pass in the style props for this. Okay, fine. So in the first div, let's give the this as a flex, and make this as items center, and inside span I'm going to show the text as side by side. Okay, and the styling for this, let's make this as dynamic. So this text I want to make it as a small, and margin right as a 3, and make this font as a medium. Okay, and so if side by side is not true, we're going to make a text as a gray. So let's make this as a 900. If not, the text gray but lighter gray color. Okay, so let's make this as 500. Yeah, so this is the styling for this span. The text here would be the side by side. Okay, yeah, after this we'll have the switch. Okay, so let's complete that. After this span, this is switch, and this is it checked or not will be depending on this side by side value. And on change, I'm going to trigger that set side by side callback function. And the class name here, let's create one class name which can receive a list of the classes, and will join all these classes here. So I'm going to define here one function. So let's name this as class names, and this can receive any number of class names. Okay, so this would be of type string array, and we are going to return this. We're going to filter and join, like we're going to keep only which are true, and join based on the space. Okay, yeah, so here we're going to make use of that class names. Okay, so if side by side is true, we're going to make the background as black. Okay, if not, we'll make this as in gray. So 200. Okay, fine. Then after this, we'll make this as a relative, and make this as inline flex. Height, let's make it as a 6, and width as 11, and flex shrink 0, and cursor as a pointer, and make this as a full circle, so rounded full. Okay, and give the border as 2, and border, make this as a transparent, and transition colors, make the duration as 200, and then the ease in out and focus outline none. Okay, fine. Okay, yep, this is the pretty styling for this switch. Okay, and inside after this we'll have a span again. Okay, so here let's make the translate as again some styling for this. So area, this how to use the switch and all, and how to style it is clearly mentioned in headless UI React documentation. Okay, fine. So and then mention the class names. So this again will make use of that function. So based on if side by side is true, we'll make this as translate 5. If not, make this as a left side, so 0. Okay, fine. So now here pointer events none, inline block, and height and width as 5. Transform, make this as a circle rounded full, and the background I'll make this as a white. Okay, and the shadow will use the shadow, so and the ring as 0. Then transition duration for 200 milliseconds and ease in out. Okay, so transition duration, let's make it 200 milliseconds, and then effect is ease in out. Okay, so yeah, this is it for the styling of this span. Okay, fine. After this we'll have the label for this. A label will give it as a compare. Okay, fine. So just outside of this switch we'll have switch dot label. Okay, and make this act as a span, and the class name will have margin left 3, and inside this span and class names some styling. So let's make a text as a small, and make a font as a medium, and based on if side by side is true, we'll make this text as a gray color, some 900, if not lighter gray color 500. Okay, fine. Yeah, so now the text is compare. Okay, so yeah, so this is pretty much the toggle component. So now we're going to make use of this inside our revive page. So heading back to our revive page, here first thing after this thing we are going to create one div. So let's style this as a flex. Okay, and make this as a justify between and items center, and make this width as full, and direction column. Okay, and margin top as 4. Okay, fine. So here first thing we are going to set this toggle. We're going to use this toggle component which I have just created. So that I'm going to import that first. So let's import that. So if I import this toggle, yep, so here we will give a styling here based on the if the generated image is loaded or not. Okay, so for that we will have one variable, like let's say like revived loaded or not. So if it is loaded only, we'll make this toggle as visible, because there's no point for showing this toggle with just one image, right? So let's define one variable for that. So I'm going to create one variable called revive loaded, okay, and set revived loaded, and this would be of type boolean, and let's make this as false initially, okay. So here based on that variable we're gonna give we're gonna make this toggle component visible or not. So let's wrap inside the curly brackets, and so if revived loaded, I'm going to apply the styling as visible and give margin bottom as a 6, okay. If not, I'm going to make this as invisible, okay, fine. So this is the class name, and then the set side by side. So here we will be calling that set side by side by passing in the this value, okay, yeah. So now that is the toggle button, and also we have to set the side by side variable, right? So I'll have to pass in the side by side variable, okay. So this is the toggle part, okay, fine. So after that we'll have to showcase the compare slider. So that is if user has selected just one image to compare, so on scrolling up we should show the generated image, and scrolling down we have to showcase the image which he has uploaded. So for that I'm going to create a new component called compare slider, and there is a beautiful library which is react compare slider. So I'm just going to install that, so you can see more details in the documentation. So I'm just installing that react compare slider. So let me quickly create the component as well here. Let's name that as a compare slider dot tsx, okay, yeah. So here let's name this as compare slider, and this would receive our original image and then the revived image, okay. So both would be of type strings, so let's mention them. So here original would be of type string, and then okay, and then revived would be of type string, okay, fine. So after this I'm just going to import that react compare slider from the library which we have just installed, and then item one would be, and here one more component, that is react compare slider image, and pass in the source of original image. So source is original, and just I'm gonna give the name it as original image, okay, yeah. So I'm just going to close that, and similarly item 2, so make use of that same slider image component, and this time the source would be our revived, okay, and the text that I will be passing is the revived image, okay. So and I want it to be portrait, and the styling for this, make this as a flex, and the max width that it can take is this 475 pixel, and the margin top let's give it as a 5, okay. So and let's close this. So yeah, so this is the compare slider component. Now let's make use of this in our revive page. Okay, so heading back to the revive page, just below this toggle component usage, I'm just going to import that compare slider and make use of that. So this will have to show only when if revive this loaded is true, and then side by side is true, okay, then only we'll be showcasing this. So let's import that. So compare slider. So original would be our original image, so both should be not null. So under revived would be revived image, okay. Yep. So this is how we're going to make use of this compare slider, okay. And after this, so based on if the status here we have one variable here status, right? So that is authentication part. So first thing, we'll have to wrap the session provider in our app.tsx. So that we should do in order to allow our application to keep to keep track of our user session, okay. So here we will import the session provider. So let me first import the session provider from nextauth react, okay, and then we'll have to wrap this component inside that session provider. So session provider, and here we'll have to pass in this session. So here in page props, okay, we will extend this would be of type session. We're going to destructure session and also the page props, okay, fine. And now we'll pass in that session here, okay, and then wrap this component inside the session provider, okay. So this is how we're going to wrap the session provider. So now going here, okay, so here, as I mentioned, if the status of the value which we receive from the use session, okay, is loading, we'll have to render the spinner kind of loader and all. So that we're going to handle now. So here, so I will create quickly. So after this, if status is loading, then I'm going to show this rings, okay. So that I'm going to import from one more library, react loader spinner. So okay, so that is going to give us the loader spinner and just as a component, so we'll use that. So I'm going to install that react loader spinner, okay. So once that is installed, I'm going to import a rings component and make use of that. So let's wrap that inside one div and give some styling for this. We'll make the max width that it can occupy is 670 pixels, and height also will restrict it to the 250 pixels, and make this as a flex, and justify center, and items as center, okay. Yep. Now here, so we'll close this div. So now I'm going to import the rings component, and here we'll give this some styling for this, height as 100 and width as 100, and color, let's make this as black, and the radius I want it to be 6, and wrapper style we'll just keep empty thing, okay, and the wrapper class as well nothing, and visible true, let's make this as true, and area label let's give this as a rings loading. Okay, yep. So this is, we're going to show when the status is equals to loading. Okay, fine. If not, this is where, okay, fine. So if the status is authenticated and there is no original image, we will have to show our upload drop zone component. Okay, so that is upload drop zone component. Okay, so this is what, okay, fine. If not, okay, that is if there is an original image uploaded, so here based on this original image, okay, we'll have to show this, what, sign in below with Google to generate a free account and revive your images today and all that stuff. Okay, fine. So that means we will know that the status is neither loading nor authenticated, so then we'll have to show our sign in options. Okay, so let's wrap everything inside a divs. Okay, and give some styling for this. Make this height as 250 pixels and make this as a flex, and make this direction as a column, items as a center, the pretty decent standard stuff, and give space y direction 6, and max width we will give it as in a 670 pixel, and margin in negative direction as top 8. Okay, fine. Now we just close this div. Inside this I'll create one more div to just give some styling to the text that we're going to show. So here the styling, let's give max width as XL, and give the gray color to the text, so give some number as 600. Okay, so here the text that would be showcasing here is sign in below with Google to create a free account and revive your images today. Okay, so this is the text that will be showcasing, and we will add one more. You will be able to revive 5 images per day for free. Okay, this is the text that will be showcasing. Okay, after this a button which will allow the user to sign in with Google. Okay, so I'm going to have the button, and here on click function we are going to call in the sign in and pass in the Google function, and the styling for this, let's make the background as gray and give it as a 200, and make our text as black, and font as semi bold, and padding by direction I'll give 3, and x direction make it as a 6, and rounded corners XL, make this as a flex, and items as center, and give a space in the x direction 2. Okay, fine. So inside this I'm just going to use the image component and give here the Google image. Okay, so width, make this as a 20, and okay, fine. Okay, did I not import image? Yep. So here, yes. So if you go here, let's give here width as 20 and height as 20. I'm just going to use the Google logo. I will download it and use it. For now I'm keeping that. Okay, so this is Google's logo. Okay, so this is what, and after this the text. So text would be sign in with Google. Okay, so yeah, there is issue with this, not able to recognize the variables from this. Okay, so let's not worry about these things now. Okay, so we are configured till now here. So if you see the output now, we should be able to see something. Okay, yeah. So in this page we are seeing this, and since there is no original image and also status is not authenticated or not loading, so this is what is expected. Okay, this should be showcased here. Okay, fine. So let's quickly complete the other thing, and also I have I'm gonna use the Google logo. So I just downloaded now. So now if you see, there should be change. Yep. So yeah, now after this div here, if there is an original image, okay, and there is no revived image yet, this is the single image component that will be showcasing. So the name of this will give the halt as original image, and the source would be our original image, and the class name will make this as rounded to Excel, so that edges would be okay. And then let's give width and height as 475 respectively. Fine. So this is only when there is a original image. Okay, fine. So after this, again, if there is a revived image and there is original image and there is side by side value is not true, then we are going to show this. That is, I'm going to show two images, okay, side by side. So let's quickly design that div. Okay, so flex, make this, if it's a smaller screen, we'll give the space as a 4, and also if it's a small screen, let's make this as a row, and by default let's make this as column. Okay, fine. So here, so for now the first div for the original image and another div for the revived image. Okay, so I'm going to wrap everything inside this, that is just the header and then the image. Okay, so here header, let's give the styling for this, margin bottom as 1, and font just like we did in the first page. Okay, and give the text size as a large, and the text would be original image. Okay, then after this we're going to show the image. So here alt would be original image, and the source would be our original image variable, and styling will give it as rounded in the corners, and make this as a relative, and the width and height, let's keep it as same, 475, height also to 475. Okay, so this is this div. Okay, fine. After this we're gonna create one more div and give some styling here if it's a smaller screen, no margin top, but if the screens, we're gonna give 8. And then let's close this div. First is the header, so here let's give margin bottom as 1 and the font medium same, and the text as large. Okay, and here the text would be revived image. Okay, fine. After this, I'm going to have a wrap this inside anchor tag and help to navigate to this URL, that is revived image. Okay, and let's open this in a separate tab. Okay, and pass in this no referral. Okay, yep, and as usual use the image component. Okay, so the text of this would be revived image, and then a source would be revived image, and the styling same rounded to Excel, and make this as relative, and if it's a smaller screen give margin top as 0 or else margin top as 2, and make a cursor zoom in. Okay, yeah, and width same of 475, and height as well of 475. On loading complete, I am going to set revived loaded as true. Okay, yeah, and then close this. So this is when there is revived image URL present and original image URL is present, and side by side is not true. Okay, fine. So after this, here again, based on if it's a loading, then we'll have to show a button with kind of a loading dots. Okay, so here I'll just show you the button, and again let's make this as a disabled, and here class name, again styling, make this as a black, and we'll make corners as full, and make the text color as a white, and the font type medium, and padding x direction 4, padding y direction just give top as 2, and the padding bottom 3, and margin top let's give it as a 8, and if we are hovering the background color, we will change to black by some 80. Okay, and width let's give it as a 40. Okay, inside this we'll have one span which kind of shows the loading dots. Okay, so here let's give a padding top as 4. Here we'll have to showcase the loading dots. We'll have to create a separate component, and we'll have to change the styling, so I'll create that. So after this, if there is an error, we'll have to show again one more div. Okay, so this loading dots I'll create later, so let's first complete this. Okay, fine. So if after this, if there is error, then this is the thing that we are supposed to showcase. So here we'll wrap everything inside a div. Again styling for this, let's make the background color as red, and border, and give border color as red, let's say 400, and text also red as 700, and padding x direction 4, padding y direction I'll give it as a 3, and rounded I'll make this XL. Okay, and margin top 8, max width will restrict to the 575 pixel. Okay, and this role would be alert. And let me close this div, and inside this we are going to show again we're going to create two more divs, one to say like please try again in 24 hours, and another to div to show actual error that occurred. Okay, so here again the stylings, let's give background as 500, and the text make it as a white, and make a font type as a bold, and a rounded top. Okay, and padding x4 and padding y I'll give it as a 2. Okay, so let's close this div. So inside this the text that we will be wrapping is please try again in 24 hours. So this is the text that will be wrapping. Then one more div to show the actual error. So let's give here the styling, give the border for this, and border top only, and so no top. Okay, fine, and give the color as a red, and make rounded at the bottom, and give background red color 100. So and padding x direction, padding y direction, and give the text color as well the red, and let's say it as 700. Okay, and the text that will be showcasing is the value present in the error variable. So this is in case some error occurred, this is what will be showcasing on the screen. So yeah, for error thing is also done. Now we'll try to show the if the original image is there and it's not loading, so we'll have to showcase the button to upload a new image as well, like for another image that he wanted to revive. Okay, so that thing we are going to handle now. Okay, so here we'll make one, create one div, and give this as a flex, and give space x as 2, and justify center. Okay, so this is original image is present, and the status is not loading, and then we'll showcase a button here. So here on click of the button, we'll have to set call this callback function, set original image to the null, and set revived image to null, and set revived loaded to false, and then set error to null. Okay, fine, and give styling for this button. So we'll make a background as a black, and corners, I mean full rounded corners, and then text color white, and font type medium, padding x direction give as a 4, and y direction 2, margin top is 8, and now hovering we are going to change the background color, so it will be a black 80, and some transition. Okay, so yep, so yeah, and the text that would be saying is upload new image. Okay, fine. So yeah, then yeah, this is when he wants to try to revive again a new image. Okay, fine. After this, the one more case, if the revived is loaded, okay, then we'll have to showcase the button to download that image. Okay, so here we're going to give one button, and on click here we'll have to let the user allow the user to download. So what we'll do, let's write one function inside utils. Okay, so going here to the utils folder which we have just created, I'm just going to create a one file called download image. Okay, so and here I'm going to handle the logic to download the image. Okay, so first thing, let's export this function. So that would be download image, and the input params that this function would be expecting is the URL and then the file name. Okay, so here we are going to fetch, you're gonna use this fetch that URL by passing in the headers, that is new headers, and the origin, which should be location.origin, and mode is course, and then receive the response. Okay, and this would be of type blob. Okay, so blob function, and then take blob from that and generate the blob URL from that. So that is window.url.create blob URL, and here I'm going to create one above helper function to download using the blob URL. And so let's name that as let's name this as force download, and pass in the blob URL, which is should be of type string, and the file name, so this again would be of type string. So let's name one variable which is of type any. So here document dot create element, which is of type anchor type. Okay, and then a dot download would be file name, and a dot href we will assign the blob URL, and document dot body dot append child, which is anchor tag. Okay, and then call the click action on that, and also the remove action. Okay, so this is how we are going to download it. Okay, so after this, let me call that force download function, pass in the blob URL and the file name. Okay, and if there are any exceptions, we're going to catch that as well here. So I'm just going to print inside the console. Yeah, so this is how we're going to download. So let's use this function here. So that is download image, and pass in the revived image, and here we'll have to pass in the file name. So let's write again util function to append a new name to that whatever the file name that user has uploaded. So let's create inside this utils itself. So I'm going to create a new file called append. So let's append new. So I'm going to create this as append new to name. Okay, so here we're going to export that by default, and the function name that will keep as the same as the file name, that is append new to name, and the input param that it will be receiving is the names, which is of type string. And then let's first get the insert position where we want to insert. So that is name dot index of, let's get the dot. Okay, so here the new name would be name dot substring position. Then we are going to concat this hyphen new. Okay, name dot substring at this position. Okay, fine. So and finally we are going to return that new name. Okay, fine. So this is how we're going to concat hyphen new to the image. Okay, sorry, file name. So let's go here. So this is how we're going to pass the file name here. So that would be nothing but append new to name and pass in the image name, and this should not be null. Okay, this is how we're going to allow the user to download. And again, the styling for this, so let's make the background of this button as white and rounded corners, so full, and the text as black, and gives border, and the font type, let's make this as a medium. Padding x direction 4, padding y direction, let's give it as a 2. Okay, and the margin top, make it as 8. Hovering, let's change the background color to the gray, 100. Okay, fine. And then just pass in the transition effect. Yes, yeah. And the text of this button would be download revived image. Okay, so yeah, this is exactly what we wanted to accomplish in this. And also after this main, we just forgot to use the footer component. So yep, so now let's head back to the browser and check if the functionality we wanted to accomplish is achieved or not. Okay, so let's head back to this. So now let's check now. Since the original image is null, and also loading is neither status is neither loading nor authenticated, that's why we are seeing this section, that is the sign in with Google. Okay, so now let's try to check the overall flow. Okay, and see if it's working the way we wanted or not. So I'm just clicking on this sign in with Google. So here I'm going to enter my email and then enter my password. Okay, so yes, so let me verify that using my mobile. Yep, you see now the authentication successfully be logged in, and it is showing how many generations are left for today, and in how long it is going to renew in. Okay, and here we'll have to handle to showcase our the image which we got from Google, so that we are going to make change, and also your spacing, so we'll correct that. So first let's check the overall flow. So let's try to upload the image. So let me upload my image. Okay, so I'm taking this image, and we are uploading this, so we can see the status of that. Yeah, and here loading thing dots we'll have to handle. And now you see here the original image in the left and the revived image. So the overall flow, it's quite working. Okay, and if you see this, if I check mark this, we will be seeing just a compare thing. So this is what I was talking about. So this is the compare slider component that came into effect, and if I just uncheck this, so side by side, so this is what we'll be seeing, so next to each other. and if I click on this, it should be able to download the image. So clicking on this, yes, so it is downloading, so we can refer this. And also clicking on this, it should take us to the remote URL, which was we added the anchor tag, if you remember, for this revived image. So this is we're able to use view the remote URL in our browser itself. So this is working. And also this is to upload our new image. So if we click on this, yes, so it is taking back to upload an image. So overall functionality, I see it's quite working, but there are some corrections that we are supposed to make, that is display your icon and also give some space here. And also while we are trying to make an API call to replicate, we have to show the loading dot, so that will be good user experience. So let's first handle that. So first I'm going to correct these two, then we'll handle the loading dots. Okay, so going to our code base. Okay, so in our revive part, okay, where we are using this header, so this is where I'll have to pass in the session.user.image. okay, so once I pass that, we should be able to see the logo of our Google account. Okay, so let me change that. So it would be session.user.image or else undefined. Okay, so this is this, and next we'll have to give the space. Okay, so let's me give the space here. Okay, so let's check this now. So going back to the thing, yeah, so there is a space, and also the my image whichever I received from Google authentication we are displaying here. So cool. So now let's focus on the loading dots. Okay, so going back to our code base, so for that let's create a one new component. So let's name that as a loading dots. Okay, so here I'll create a new file called loading dots.tsx. okay, so in that so let's name the component name as loading dots. Okay, so this is going to receive the input parameters is color. So by default we'll make this as black. Okay, and the style I would make this as small, and this would be of type so let's give you a comma. Okay, so color would be of type string, and the style also would be of type string. Okay, yeah, fine. So now we are going to focus on rendering the dots. Okay, so we are going to write a custom CSS for 3 dots. Okay, so all we are going to wrap inside a span. So this is how it's going to be. So this depends upon if the style is small, I'm going to render one thing. Okay, if not, we are going to render another thing. So inside this there will be 3 spans. Okay, which kind of reflects the 3 dots. Okay, so let's first create a custom styling CSS. So inside our styles folder, so I'm going to name that file as loading dots. Okay, so let's create a new file here, loading dots dot module dot css. Okay, so here we are going to define the classes required for us to achieve the loading dots functionality. Okay, so I'm going to make it quick. So yeah, so let's name the loading class. So first display, let's make this as inline flex, and align items center. Okay, so this is a loading class, and then loading with a spacer. So let's give the margin right for this, so there will be a space. give it as a 2 pixel, and this is first span thing. So let's make animation name as blink, and then animation duration 1.4 seconds, and animation iteration count infinite. Okay, and then animation fill mode as both, and give width for this as a 5 pixel, and height also will give it as a 5 pixel. Then border radius, let's make this as a 50%, and display, let's make this as an inline block, and margin give 0 and 1 pixel. Okay, so this is for loading span. Okay, and here for the second dot and the third dot, let's give the animation a delay of 0.2 seconds and 0.4 seconds respectively. So that is loading and span. Let's use this nth of type. Okay, so this is second dot, so let's make here the animation delay as 0.2 seconds, and do the same for the third dot. So that is nth of type third dot, let's make the animation delay as 0.4 seconds. Okay, fine. So yeah, so that was the for 3 dots. So for loading 2, if its type is not small, so that we are going to make display as inline flex, and align items as center, and the same, the spacer will make it as the same. Okay, and we'll do the same for that. Okay, so quickly, so loading 2 spacer, so margin right as 2 pixel. Okay, and then the span tag, animation name it's blink, and animation duration, let's make this as 1.4 seconds, and animation iteration count infinite, animation fill mode as both, and width, let's give it as a 4 pixel, and height, let's give it as a 4 pixel, border radius to 50%, same like we did for the above one. So here inline block, and margin 0 pixel, so let's go 0 pixel and 1 pixel. Okay, so again for the second dot and the third dot, so nth of type 2, animation delay of 0.2 seconds, and for third dot, animation delay of 0.4 seconds. Okay, yeah, and let's add keyframes for the blink. Okay, so here if it's a 0%, opacity will make it as a 0.2. if it's a 20%, opacity will make it as a 1. 100%, 0.2. Okay, yep, so the stylings are ready. So let's head back to our component file and quickly import that styling and make use of that. So that is import styles from styles, this one. Okay, so here if it's a small, we will go for this loading 2, that is styles dot loading 2. If it's a bigger one, so it will be loading. Okay, and so if it's a bigger thing, so it is styles dot loading. Okay, yeah. So after this we will wrap 3 spans for 3 dots respectively. So here let's give the background color as whatever the input param we receive for this component, so that is color. And let's copy the same for this remaining 2 dots. Okay, so okay, yeah, so this is it. And so let's export this component. So loading dots, and by default let's set the type as small. So loading props and style dimensions. So style I will, okay, fine. So now let's head back to our revive page and use this component here. So this is where we are supposed to use, that is in loading. So inside this span tag, so let's import that. So loading dots, and pass in the color and the style parameter. Okay, so let's make the color as white and style as large. Okay, yeah, so fine. So now the dots are added. So now let's head back and check it out. Okay, so heading back to the browser, and here, okay, so now if I try to upload this, so let's take the same image, this one. Okay, let's take this. Okay, so we're uploading, and let's check now. The 3 dots should be so you see now the loading dots is visible. So the component which we have used was successfully rendered on the screen, and the repeating we already saw, so it is the same. Okay, and I think, yeah, this is it for this application that we wanted to accomplish and I want to cover. And yeah, this is pretty much it. So after this I'm gonna push it to the repo and share it with you guys. And deployment part, I don't want to show you guys, it remains the same like we did for the your avatar. You just have to configure, so you just have to link the GitHub repository of yours to the virtual cloud, and then there you'll have to provide 2 commands. One to build, so that will be nothing but npm install virtual build, where we will configure inside the script of the package.json file. Okay, that is prisma generate and next build. Okay, so that does build the project for us. And one more command to install is npm run install. It's going to install all the dependencies needed for this project. So that is the commands you should provide. And the environment variables, so environment variables that we should be copying to the environment variable sections while we are deploying to virtual cloud is the replicate API token. I have showcased you how to get that, and the Google client ID and Google client secret even I have showcased how to get that. And apart from that, you should get the upstash REST API token. So if you see REST token and REST URL. Okay, so this is how you're going to get. So once you create the Redis database in Upstash, you would be once you go inside of that database, you can access that respective REST URL and the REST token. Just copy this and use it in your environment sections. Okay, so these are the 2 variables that you will be needing. And one more is the API key for your file upload. Okay, so upload.io. so once you have created your account, so you can just get the API key from this section, just public key, and configure this is an environment variable. So once you have this set of the keys, you just copy paste to the environment variable sections and click on deploy. Then the data, and then your application would be ready. Again there you'll have to provide a remote database URL. You can host it in any cloud you want, or you can just create a Superbase PostgreSQL and consume that. So that variable also you'll have to configure. So once you configure, so this is how the data looks like. So as of now I have just only me as a logged in as a user, so that's why you see here user sections. Okay, so this is how this overall application works, and for deployment I have clearly provided you the details. Still, if any doubts, please feel free to comment in the comment section. I'll be able to help. Okay, yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, thank you.